Okay, so thank you very much for the invitation. When Martin Barry, in your opening speech, you said about this basic question in contemporary cities, like, where are you from? It reminded me of one time when I asked this question to an Uzbeki repatriate, and I asked, where are you from? And she said, I'm from Gdansk, what do you mean? So she came from Uzbekistan, but she was from Gdansk. So this question is sensitive in a way and is quite tricky. So I was invited here today to talk about, not so much about my center, but about the model of integration of immigrants that we are implementing. So to begin with, I would like to share one thought I realized lately. I think that we either actively integrate people and immigrants, or we end up with exclusion. And I think there is nothing in between. So integration is very challenging, and this is obviously very challenging. Saskia Sassen said, like cultural distance and very many factors that make integration challenging, but exclusion is destructive, and I think that people, when they are not integrated and separated and we don't communicate, they are sad, they are frustrated, they are angry, and we get into conflicts, and we distrust, and we become even, like Poland is a place where the levels of social trust are very low. So integration in Poland is very, very difficult, because what we try to do is to integrate people into a disintegrated community. So if we keep people excluded from this disintegrated community, we become even more disintegrated. But first, let's go to some numbers now. As you said, Poland is not associated very much with immigration, but in fact we do have immigration. It's over 1 million immigrants, economic immigrants now, mainly from Ukraine, but we also have a quite big Vietnamese community. In Gdansk it will be around 15,000 people. The statistics are very poor. This is what our mentors were saying. You have to count, you have to see what you have. So we would say 15,000 people living in Gdansk, and we have had over 100,000 refugees since the 90s. And this is true. We have been a transit country to them. Most of them left. But we have had no migration or integration policy on the state level. So how could people have stayed in our country if it has been so? And I don't think that it has been a choice of refugees in Poland that they chose to leave. It was the choice of our governments not to implement integration and make people leave. So even though we don't have this policy on the central level, immigrants and refugees, they live in the cities, right? So we have to have some solutions on the city level, because children come to our schools, workers come to our labor market, and women give birth in our hospitals. So we need to have some ways to accommodate people. And we have been working for over a year now on the model of integration of immigrants in Gdansk. And it is based on the act of Mayor of Gdansk, and we started working on that before the refugee crisis started. And it's been a long lobbying process for my organization. When we started in 2012, we are delivering direct services to immigrants, like information, legal advice, job advice, Polish courses, and everything that. And people would come and they would say what is going on in the city for them. And we were very disappointed with our community, and we were disgusted at times to see all the abuses and discrimination that is going on. So we would go to institutions and we would go to City Hall and say this has to change. But they would say, this cannot really change because there are no immigrants in Gdansk. Well, but we were coming with immigrants, and people, they would look at immigrants and still would say that there are no immigrants. So there's this visibility problem that we are dealing with. And we have a very strong belief that we are very homogenic countries and very homogenic societies. And even so, this makes immigrants invisible and so excluded and discriminated. So we were working when the mayor gave the act. He he said, okay, so we are making a team for integration, for model of integration. So when a mayor is inviting, people are not willing to refuse, you know. So we started working in 8 areas on education, housing, employment, health, social help and culture, so on. Also discrimination and violence. And we have been the team has been 150 people of 70 institutions. It is a bottom-up process because we've been lobbying, but also we had crises connected, for example, with expelling of Roma families from where they were living, and so it was a human rights violation. So it was a process. It's a bottom-up process, and all sectors and institutions are involved in all those 8 areas. And so it's police, it's schools, it's hospitals, it's culture institutions. We think about how to integrate and how to make people get services equally of equal quality to Polish people. What I think is our biggest success is that people through this process, because through this year we've been meeting every month for the whole day. We were getting trainings and meetings and everything. So we were discussing and people got involved. You know, even if at the first time they thought, what is this? Why should, you know, there are no migrants, what I should be working on? They got involved and they got to understand what we were talking about, and they met migrants, because obviously migrants are in the team that we make. So they got to see their perspective and to understand the role of their institution. And in this process, we came from diagnosis, so we asked immigrants what is wrong, and we also asked institution what doesn't work in your institution when you meet migrant. Are you able to deliver a service? So from this diagnosis, we went to vision, and we asked how this should be. And finally, we created like priority solutions in each of the areas. So now we have a text of model that is over 100 pages and is in social consultation process. So people are coming, we meet with the local community and we explain. And this is very amazing because because of the involvement, when we now meet people and discuss why we do a model of integration, they feel it's their own thing and they know how to defend it, they know how to explain it, and they know how to say why it's necessary for our community. But what I also want to say is that I feel we are very lucky with what we've had, like with this city hall people, like our vice mayor here, who is like always saying Islam is a religion of peace, you know, and writes in Arabic for happy Ramadan or something. So we've been lucky. It's a good timing, good people. Something came together. But I also think that in Poland generally, and this is also a question to you to look at yourself, your communities and your cities. I think we are very easy with discrimination and exclusion, and we don't really address this problem. So I think there is no need for immigrants to be excluded, and I think they can't be excluded for our cities to be a good place to live. What we have to understand is that immigrants will not integrate themselves. This is our role to create conditions for that and build the framework for meeting, for understanding, for developing policies together. This is our responsibility as of a majority. And well, this is the poster for the consultations we are running. There were 2 meetings, and this is for the meetings with Islam, and very successful. Of course, radicals are coming and shouting at us and telling, you know, how we are going to change Gdansk into Sharia law and all that. But we are managing. We are facing that. And final points, I think we are in a good position now because immigration in our region is quite low in numbers, so we can manage the processes, we can meet the people, like Saskia Sassen was saying, like we can get to know who's there and check their competences. We have people to learn from. This is Eurocities Migration Integration Group. They've been coming, they've been supporting, and we are in the process together to see and reflect on what we do. But also we need a political will, and I think it's the role maybe not push, but to ask or dialogue about that with our political leaders, because we really want them, and I think we have power to ask to make this inclusion together with them. Thank you.